the last giveaway was Mitsubishi Evolution 9. But before that, we spent the previous 18 months giving away 8 Toyota MR2s.
Hey, my name is Felix Tia, and I'm the host of Shopify Masters, a weekly podcast powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. Each week, we invite entrepreneurs like you to share what they've learned growing successful e-commerce businesses. In this episode, you'll learn how they can afford to give away a car every 2 months, how to convert cold Facebook traffic to enter and pay for a giveaway, and why they went from building products to selling DIY kits. Today, I'm joined by Justin Burnash from Prime Driven. Prime Driven is a 7-figure business and one-stop shop for Toyota car parts and was started in 2012 and based out of Stanhope, New Jersey. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks, Felix. Great to be here.
Yeah, so you told us that by the age of 26, you already owned over 20 cars of the same type, which is one of the car parts that you help service, the Toyota MR2, and it was your frustration with the existing market that led you to start your business. So tell us about that frustration. What led you to get frustrated enough to start a business around this?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, the MR2, Toyota MR2, which is our specialty, little tiny 2-seater mid-engine Toyota, and like most kind of very low volume old cars, which back then it was, barely 10 years old, the market is not big. There aren't a lot of companies serving it. And if they are, they're companies like us where it's like 1 guy, 2 guys, 3 guys, not anything really serious. So it was very fragmented. Customer service was, to my standards, not there at all to the level, with the maybe exception of one little company. And, they just weren't operating in a way that I thought should be happening. And so, we basically took that, like many great small businesses or just small businesses, took the frustration and said, there's got to be a better way.
Mm-hmm. Did you have experience before? Like, what made you think that you could do a better job than what was already out there?
Yeah, so my background is in customer service and sales. So I used to be part of a small personal training gym in Burnsville, New Jersey, that I helped a friend of mine build up. I was in sales, when I was younger, Sears Hardware back when, that was the thing, in cars, buying, selling cars, stuff like that. So it was just, everybody has their way they like to do business. I love great customer service. And I mean, what my definition of it is, which is just, attentive, informational, not really pushy, but, helping people where they clearly have a gap in their knowledge.
Right. Were there specific things that you knew you wanted to come into the market when you started your business and do right away to really blow customers away when it came to customer service?
Yes, actually. That's a great question because I can still remember it was email response times. So back then, there was still, Facebook was around, but, it wasn't being utilized by my market. So it was all forums and email. And I would email companies for years and years before that, a decade before, we ever started the company. And, I just wouldn't hear back, or I would hear back like a week later. And then it would be like something really not particularly useful as a response or just no response. And as a guy who was, looking for help from an expert, I don't know, I thought at a minimum I would get some kind of response. So yeah, that was really the main scenario that drove me, and what I made every effort to in the beginning. And obviously, as we've gotten bigger, it becomes more challenging because the volume of the emails and then Facebook messages, Instagram DMs, and all the different platforms is much more challenging now. But back then, it was just my rule was reply to an email within 24 hours. Worst case, best case, an hour or 2.
Got it. So this customer service that you were applying, it wasn't even for the type of business that you're in today, right? You weren't the typical e-commerce business when you first started out. Tell us more about that. Where did you begin with your business?
Yeah, so great question, because it's not at all how we are now. We started out back then in 2012, even actually before that, we were building cars and helping guys build cars, fixing their MR2s, going back well over 10 years. But when it really became a business, we were building Toyota MR2s for customers. So the way that we really kind of kicked it off with a bang was the market had been very stale for a long time. There's a very popular thing called engine swaps in the car world, where you take a newer engine out of the same or different car and you put it in the older version, you put everything together, you make it work, and then you have a better driving version of your cool old car that you already have. So we took an engine that came out of a station wagon in Japan that was never exported to the United States and put it in the Toyota MR2s. which is basically this 15-year newer engine. Same basic engine structure called the 3S GTE. That's the designation of that engine. But this was a 15-year newer engine. So just better everything, much more reliable, younger, lower mileage, faster, more powerful, easier to work on. But we basically, my business partner, figured out how to make it work in the car. And then, we went from there with basically giving our customers, here's the newest, fastest, most reliable way to engine swap your MR2. And we're going to make it really easy for you to have that done by us.
And how did that business go?
Not well financially, but well in terms of branding. So our kind of obsession with quality, my obsession with customer service, my business partner, we're both obsessed with quality, but my business partner is the technical mastermind behind the cars. So he is, unrelenting in his, desire for things to work how we believe they should, which is basically like OEM did. So like the manufacturer. So the idea of our cars is that, you would send the car to us. And back then, most of our cars were shipped in and out on car carriers. They came from all over the country because there aren't that many of them in the country. And we would, tear them down, go through everything, not just throw a motor in and send it back out the door, which is what a lot of guys were doing back then. And I'm sure people still do now. But we would go through the entire car, give the customer a list of everything that needed to be done from a safety standpoint first. And then we'd go into fun performance stuff if they still had the budget and there was still time. But that was 4 years of that. We built, 50 cars a year, generally, like on average. We had, 2 or 3 mechanics, full time. But this is in New Jersey where, overhead and workers' compensation and all that was just hideously expensive. And these are not high dollar cars. These are $5,000 cars in most cases. So we were doing, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 engine swaps on a car. Half the time they were spending more on the swap than they had spent on the car up to that point. So it's just not enough financial resources a lot of times for the customers to be able to do what needed to be done or to do it to the level that we did it. So eventually we had built several hundred cars. Those customers were asking for support, meaning parts online. We had a very basic website back then with no parts available. They were asking, so we started adding parts. And this was on like a Weebly website. It was not ecommerce, but just had the ability to kind of create some parts and a payment process. So we started doing that basically, a handful of parts at a time. We'd sell the replacement parts of what we used on builds, which were whatever we had found was the highest quality, best value part at the time. And then over time that grew just by requests. And then eventually we came to, your platform, fast forward, 18 months, 12 months. Then we came to Shopify, and that was kind of when everything changed.
Got it. So this process where customers are telling you that they wanted parts, they wanted a way to get it. This was like a 18-month or a year and a half long transition from the original business of building 50 cars a year to now selling parts online.
Correct. Yeah, it was, like most things, longer than you think, but it was really, we never intended to become an e-commerce company. In fact, it was a distraction for a long time. And it was tough with managing inventory and resources because we didn't, we weren't a big company. We didn't have a lot of money. There wasn't a lot of good cash flow in that model of building the cars. So it was, trying to keep everything on the shelf for when an order came in. And at the same time, we had 3 more cars that had to be built in the next 3 weeks. And not all those parts are readily available. A lot of them we order from Japan or we have them manufactured by, other small companies. So it was very challenging in the beginning.
Yeah, it's I think what's important here is that what you start off with is not where you ended up, and it's not easy, to make this transition, this change, because you're still in the same industry, you're probably dealing with the similar or the same customers, you're still working with cars, your passion that I can see for the both of you, but you're kind of going to uncomfortable territory, right? You're going from working probably face to face with a lot of people like on their cars and now selling products and shipping them across, the country, maybe across the world eventually. What were some of the kind of growing pains there? How did you guys address the problems? Because I think you mentioned inventory and resources. Like, how did you guys get a wrangle on this early on?
Yeah, so it was a substantial challenge. My business partner and I had decided that we weren't going to, borrow any money to do anything, which I know that's probably pretty common now with, raising funding and all that kind of stuff. But we've always just run off our own personal money to build the company originally, and then basically what little cash flow we had. So we've never borrowed anything. We've never had a loan or an investor or anything like that. So we basically prioritized during that like 18-month transition of still building cars and starting to sell, very few, parts on the website. My business partner is very good and very smart when it comes to managing multiple things in his head at the same time, and managing where to get inventory, where to get the best deal on the inventory, since our markups were very, very low and still are in most of the parts. Just there's not that much markup, potential on a lot of these parts. And also we want, bring the most value to our customers. So we have to be able to pay the bills, and we want to grow, but we want to bring a customer, we want to have a customer for life, and we want to bring them so much value in terms of support and products that they feel like, I wouldn't even look anywhere else for this stuff. Like, these guys are just fantastic.
Got it. So yeah, you built this off of cash flow, profits basically, and the cash flow you're getting in from the business. So I'm assuming that there were some hard decisions along the way where you guys had to say no to opportunities, no to things, because at that time your cash flow might not have supported that investment. Can you give some examples of that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because now that you asked that question, I'm thinking back to a number of scenarios. Yeah, so back then, one of the things we also did to try to generate a little bit more noise, a little bit more awareness, and a tiny bit of cash when it went well, is we would buy broken MR2s, and then we would bring them back to life mechanically. We were not a paint and body shop. We didn't have any restoration abilities cosmetically, but, a really good detail and, cleaning up and stuff, and then a new motor, can take a dead, go into the scrapyard MR2 and put it back on the road for another 10 or 15 years. So that was one of the other things we did. That sucked a lot of cash, because, you spend all the money and then you wait to sell it. And then you get that money back, and then, you go and do it again. So that was a major challenge. And it worked well for branding, because people learned that our cars worked. Like, our old philosophy was, our cars work first, and then they're fun and fast and exciting after that.
That's actually a really good point. I want to stop it. How did you know that was the more important? Like, how did you know that was what your customers cared about first?
Well, it's funny, because no one ever asked for that, really. That was basically my business partner and I's obsession with the quality part. Back then, most guys, and it's still true today to an extent, but back then, most guys were daily driving their MR2s at 20 plus years old. And because it's a Toyota and it's from the 90s, and those are some like the most well-built cars in terms of just, raw reliability and engineering quality, it was not unusual to see a guy daily driving that car with over 200,000 miles on it and very little done to it, just because they were built so freaking well. And ultimately, we wanted to take, a modern car performance and then reliability of just something newer that has a lot more years left in it, and put it into that old chassis, which was so well built and really over-engineered from the factory. So yeah, it was just, we wanted them to work. That wasn't what people were asking for. People always want more power. They want more exciting. And it just so happened, as a bonus, the thing we put in, the motor we put in to make it work better and work reliably, happened to make more power and drive better and be, a higher performer.
Got it. So you mentioned that you were taking these at one point. You wanted to scale this up, but at the time you couldn't. But you're taking these dead cars, like you're saying, you bring them back to life. It was great for branding. What were you doing with these cars? Like, were you selling them? Like, why were you reviving them? Were you guys like reviving them to sell them? Like, what was like the end goal of each car that you guys were reviving?
Yeah. So we would buy them, we'd bring them back to life, and then we would sell them on, just to put it back on the road and, give somebody a, good value and a good quality build, for not big money. Whereas the big problem with, any old car and any modified car, but cars like ours, where they were so low volume, they made, from 1991 to 1995, they made 23,000 of these things. There's maybe 5,000 left in the country, like vaguely active on the road. So finding nice ones on like Craigslist or eBay, or back then the forums, was pretty slim pickings. So our cars became effectively, what I like to believe, because that's the reputation that we built at that point, is, a byword for like value. Like, I'm going to buy this car from Prime. It's going to be 20% more because they did work to it than the on paper or visually equivalent car online or on Craigslist, but this car will work. And if I have questions afterwards, which was another big thing when you're dealing with old cars that no one really knows anything about, and a very young audience, because it's a very cheap car, at least the entry level ones are. So you can buy one when you're in your teens, certainly in your early 20s, and it's not, a insurmountable cost. But the information is all over the place, lots of misinformation online. So people would buy, basket cases, and then they would call us to help them. And we would be like, look, like, you don't want to pay me to do the amount of work this car needs. Just sell it back to somebody else. And then here's one of our cars, buy this. And I can tell you that everything functionally works. Like, it's not perfect. It's not brand new. It's still a 20-plus-year-old car, but it goes, it stops, it turns, it's going to start tomorrow. And if you have a problem or a question, you can call me. Or back then, you could call me on the phone. Now it's, email or Facebook message or what have you. And we'll do everything we can to help you. And once or twice, there were guys that, 6 months down the road, they popped a motor, or, their friend took the car out and overheated it or something like that, doing something silly. And, we replaced our motor for free. And we didn't have the money to do that. We've never really had the money to do that, at any particular scale. But it was just, what we believed was right. And ultimately, we wanted to help the customers. Like, we got to stay in business, obviously. And if we're always doing that for free, we would go out of business. But it was just kind of a core belief of myself and my business partner of how it should be, how we wished it was when we bought cars.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you guys made the switch from focusing primarily on reviving and building cars to selling parts, was there a moment where you and your business partner sat down and was like, we got to make this switch and kind of go fully into selling parts online and start closing down the other side of the business? Or did it just happen like gradually?
Yeah, literally, it happened in one sit down meeting we had. It was December 2015. We were going over the books, and for the last 6 months, because we started selling the Wheatley stuff to existing people. I had started running Facebook ads in 2015, all self-taught, very rudimentary. But back then, Facebook ads were hilariously cheap. And there was nobody else in our industry does Facebook ads. There's no other MR2 company running Facebook ads. So I had started doing that. And we started getting a significant uptick in orders. So by the end of the year, we're I feel like we had more money in the bank, not a lot more, but a few $1,000s in the bank that normally wouldn't have been there, or we would have been overdrafting at that time or something like that. Are we missing something, or what was causing that? And then we look at all the books, and it turns out that not only was the website supplying supplemental, but actually when you ran the numbers on what it cost us for all of our expenses in New Jersey with overhead and workers' comp and payroll, what it cost us to build a car, we were actually losing money on every build.
Wow. Okay.
And literally we were we need to stop building cars. And then the next sentence was, how do we make it easier for our customers to build the cars themselves now if we're not going to do it? Because we had, 50, 60 people waiting to send cars in, and they'd been saving for years, and we've been talking to them, and, we didn't want to let them down and then just be sorry. So that was that day. We created the DIY kits that we sell to this day, the do-it-yourself kits of how to put this more modern motor that we call the Gen 4 3S GTE into the Toyota MR2, a full bolt-in plug-and-play scenario. And then we stopped taking in builds and started doing that. And, obviously all of a sudden you're not taking in money for builds anymore, even on deposit. So the first 6 months of that were pretty interesting in terms of cash flow. But that was literally a sit down December of 2015. And we had exactly that conversation.
Got it. And when you got the 6 months, you said that was interesting, the cash flow, were you guys ever thinking did we make the right decision or not?
Oh yeah, many times.
What made you stick to your guns?
Yeah, at that point, I had started reading a lot. Right around that time, I had started reading a lot in, startup businesses and autobiographies of, the titans of business industry and marketing and behavioral psychology and, just anything you could think of in terms of psychology, business and management and sales and marketing. And I was following, a lot of good people. I was reading a lot of good stuff, and my business partner, trusted me and I trusted him. So were there times, yeah, all the time when we were like, maybe we should take just this one building, just to get a little cash. But then we were like, that's going to be a slippery slope. And then like somebody finds out that we built a car for one guy and they're pissed because we said we weren't building them anymore. So, we just didn't want that to happen. So we put all that energy into making the website, at the time better, relatively speaking, adding more parts, adding more, I was spending a lot of time at that time. It was starting on Facebook, like in the groups, on the forums, in the groups, like helping people, tech support, but that was, yeah, it was tough going. And we were not cash flow positive for a decent amount of time, because of deleting the influxes of cash every time I would sell the build and we had a deposit on a build.
God, yeah, I think if you can keep the lights on or you have a long enough runway, you should, for the most part, try to focus on doing things that are scalable or investing your time, investing the way you build the business towards things that are scalable, which is the approach that you guys went with, selling these parts online. And I like the idea of this transition period where you were selling these DIY kits. Are you still selling those?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's still, one of our big, unique selling propositions, between like the 3 or 4 other MR2 companies that there are in the country, who are all basically, like 1-man shows or 2-man shows, we're all tiny little businesses. But yeah, I mean, that's still one of our big value things for our customers besides our support. And then now, for the last 18 months, which has been part of the journey with Shopify, is we now give away cars to our customers as basically a way to give back and to grow awareness for the company. Where otherwise people don't really care if you sell MR2 parts if they don't have an MR2. So that was kind of where a lot of that transition came in as well.
Guys, let's talk about that. So this car giveaway. So you're giving away a car. I think I saw that you told us that was once every almost 2 months, right?
Yeah, basically.
That's awesome. So tell us about this. How do you set this up? Like, how do you even afford to give away a car? Like, there's just this idea of giving away a car every 2 months sounds like really out of reach for a lot of people. So tell us how you guys are able to do it.
Yeah. So everybody generally has the same kind of response. When we tell them we do that, they're like, I don't understand how that works. Like you can't be doing that, legitimately. It's got to be some kind of angle, or online, like everybody will thinks it's a scam. Like, well, I understand that. Like, it seems crazy, right? Like, we're not a big company. How do we do it? We do it through a lot of work, a lot of time. And frankly, we had done the first 2 with Weebly, and there were many problems because it wasn't a purpose-built e-commerce platform. And that was when we decided to make the shift to Shopify. At that point, I was ramping up my Facebook ads quite a bit during that year leading up to that. And then this was September of 2017. Yeah. We switched over to Shopify in between giveaways, in between number 2 and number 3. And at this point, it's only MR2s we were giving away back then. Like the first 8 giveaways we did, literally up until just this year, the last giveaway was Mitsubishi Evolution 9. But before that, we spent the previous 18 months giving away 8 Toyota MR2s. And once we moved to Shopify, the back end became massively easier. All the app integration you guys have, and the Facebook integration is huge for me with my dynamic product, targeting ads. So that was really how we were able to do it. The first 2, we effectively broke even on. Like, they're not super expensive cars to build, but we build the nicest one we could each time, and tried to do something new and interesting, or at least different for our customers each time, because there's only so many different ways you can build the same car. But the how we did it was, we knew that it was probably not going to make any money because it costs a lot to do it, even at relatively cheap cars. But our customers were loving it. And of all the years and hundreds of cars that we built, and over 1,000 cars that we repaired or worked on or helped somebody fix, we'd never had so much positive feedback than when we did the first giveaway. So that was basically kind of to me, it was like an addiction at that point. I was like, this is bringing overwhelming value has always been kind of my obsession. And I always thought I did it with support and the quality of the builds and the parts, but people just it just blew up with positive, feedback and comments, and, thank you for this opportunity. And this is amazing. And, this would be life-changing. And that was very exciting for me and very fulfilling. And obviously great for brand. So that was kind of the beginning of how it worked, and then how it works ultimately in terms of money. At any given giveaway, because we're always going bigger and bigger, like this Mitsubishi Evolution we just gave away, like that's a $20,000 car. The MR2 before that was, anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 cars, like what cost us, to build. So to jump to the Evo was big, and we had no presence in the Mitsubishi Evolution market, zero. And MR2 guys are very loyal to the MR2 and very often not a big fan of really any other car. It's kind of like you have to be hardcore to really want and own and keep an MR2. So each giveaway effectively funds the next one. And now with growing into some of the bigger cars, and we're having to run a lot of cold traffic ads that I run to get these new eyeballs and people that want that car is very challenging, time consuming, and expensive. But again, like this is a car that we had no reputation in with the Evo, and I don't think we've ever had more positive feedback on ads. And these were to not customers; these were to just cold traffic, and that was really super exciting to me.
So this the profitability, where does it come from? Like these are people entering the giveaway, they give their email address or something, and then they end up buying a product from you later. Like how do you measure whether a giveaway was successful in terms of profitability or not?
Yes, great question. Sorry, I kind of glossed all over that.
No worries.
I spend so much time in this every day that I don't even think about, the 40,000 foot view here. So basically how it works is a giveaway or a sweepstakes is different than a raffle, in that a raffle has to be a 501c3 charity or a governmental agency, and you're just purchasing a chance. You're purchasing a piece of paper, like a ticket, like a lottery, or like a raffle, like a 50-50 at your local fire department, steak dinner or something like that. A sweepstakes or a giveaway means you're exchanging value. So they're buying from me either parts, or now with the cars that we don't sell parts for, like the Evo, they're buying shirts, hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, keychains, backpacks, socks, just all kinds of, like cool car themed stuff. Some of which is specific to that actual car we're giving away, where we take a bunch of photographs and stuff of it and then make stuff out of it. But then basically every dollar they spend on the website is automatically tracked by the website, and that's one entry into the giveaway. So that's how we fund the giveaway effectively. But we have to obviously build the car and do all that work before we ever launch it. So, we spend a lot of money up front, which is really the big challenge as far as cash flow is concerned. And then you bring it in over the course of the next 6, 7, 8 weeks. And then, I spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, Google ads. We work with some YouTube influencers, that have cool car channels. And that's effectively how we do it. But we're always in growth mode. So I'm not playing the short game here of like the cooler cars we can do, the more attention we get, and also the cooler cars we get to give to people. And they love that. I love that. So that's really been the long game here is, we just want to give away as much cool stuff as we can, and be able to just basically make our paychecks and grow, so that we can give away more cool stuff.
That's awesome. So you're able to track all of the. How are you able to track that? That's this like incremental, I guess, revenue rather than like a customer that would have maybe come across you anyway. Like, is there a way to differentiate between the two? Like, how do you attribute the revenue directly to the giveaway?
Yes, great question. So that's one of an endless list of the things that are so great about the Shopify platform is on our dashboard, just when we log in each morning, it shows, the number of visitors, number of orders, all that. But then when we go into the analytics, obviously it shows percent of new customers versus returning customers. And then obviously every time somebody orders, specifically on their information on their order page on our back end, shows us what number order it is. So when we see the number of returning customers, it's almost the opposite of what a lot of companies want to see on growth. A lot of companies on growth want to see high returning customers because that means you're not churning a lot, right? You're not losing a lot of customers. And then you're gaining some new. That's how it used to be before we were doing giveaways. Now, anytime during a giveaway, our returning customer rate will be extremely low with these new cars, because most of our existing MR2 customers don't care about a car that isn't an MR2.
This is as a percentage though, right? Like the actual number of people that are buying, that are returning isn't going down, but as a percentage of all the purchases, it decreases. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So all percentage based. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. So our existing MR2 customers ultimately, like, they're going to order from us anyway. The MR2 giveaways were just a cool way to give back to them. Now we're giving them a chance to own different cool cars, still as a bonus, just for shopping with us when they're buying the parts anyway. The new customers obviously are entering just for that, or just because a lot of them think some of our merch is cool. Like, we put a lot of work in. One of our guys here, is our in-house designer. And he's not like educated as a designer or anything. He's just another friend of ours, cool guy. He likes cars, and he's got a great creative flair. But yeah, the back end, there's an app on the website that basically tracks the number of entries that they have, which is basically like a loyalty tracking app, like there's a million of, and that's how we actually track the number of entries everybody has. And then we go and look at analytics to see what our percentage of new customers is, returning customers, what they're spending, how many orders they've had, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then we can attribute to a very close approximation how much revenue came in from new customers, and then what the net profit was on that, and then we see how well that one did relative to the previous one.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a review on iTunes and let us know what you think or what you'd like to hear more of. Now, let's get back to the interview. Got it. So when you are running this giveaway, you mentioned that you're driving a lot of cold traffic from Facebook, and I gotta believe that having an unbelievable product like a car that you're giving away is going to help a lot with getting attention, getting people to be intrigued or curious enough to find out more. But tell us more about the strategy. How do you get cold traffic from Facebook coming to your site to buy products to enter a giveaway? Like, what's the strategy? How do you set up? What do the ads look like even?
Yeah, great question. Because I test a lot and I test all the time. So I'll test, things that I'm going to use a month or two from now, and then I'll test stuff in real time during the giveaways. But basically, the main cold traffic ads are going to be single video conversion ads with call to action, and they'll run to. I keep it very basic when I'm doing cold traffic. I'll just pick one interest. So in this case, I'll pick the car. So the last Mitsubishi Evo was I just targeted 4 different, ways you could input that interest into Facebook. When you go to punch in your targeting, Mitsubishi Evolution, people that were interested in it. And then I run, the cold traffic ads to them, single video, conversion, shop now, call to action button, ad copy, very simple. Hey, Mitsubishi Evo fan, how would you like to win, this Evo 9 MR plus $5,000 cash, shop now, primedriven.com, every dollar, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll answer a bunch of the common frequently asked questions lower in the ad copy where, frankly, most people don't click and read, but it's there for the people that do want to click and read.
Got it. Now, when they're coming, and is it, you mentioned that you're using this loyalty giveaway app to track it. Do you know the name of it? Like, what do you recommend people would use if they want to do something similar?
Yes. So it's called Bold Loyalty Points. And we had to have them make some modifications to it for it to work in this way versus the normal, just like it's meant to kind of like give you reward points versus just straight track, number of dollars. So we had to have them do like a couple little tweaks to it, but ultimately, it works great. And then it just on every single product page underneath the add to cart button, is the number of points that product earns you, which is obviously the same as the dollar amount.
Got it. So this approach, I like it because actually before I get into this question, were you profitable on this from the very beginning? This giveaway approach?
That's a great question, because back then with the first 2 were on Weebly, and they were I guess kind of analytics, but they were not particularly useful. And that was before a big QuickBooks overhaul we did in order to be able to track everything. So at the end of the day, those first 2 were like effectively all MR2 parts and basically almost no, merch, because at that point we had like 4 T-shirts that we were selling. Like, it was just for our customers, and people were complaining, and they were like, "Well, if I don't need parts, give me something else, because I still want to get entered. I want to potentially win the car." That was when we started adding some more, kind of organically, like when we originally did with the beginning of the website for parts. We started adding more merch and some keychains and stuff like that, some hats. But yeah, in the beginning, I think by the time we got done with it and then had to buy the next car and get that car ready, it was probably break even, which I considered, frankly, a huge win. Because when we were first doing the first one, it had been mentioned to us by a longtime customer and friend like 2 years before that. So back in 14. 17, 18 is when we did it. Back in 2015, 15-ish. Customer was like, hey, I've seen some of these like big companies, like huge companies, right? Like car giveaways are not new. These have been done since the beginning of cars. They're just usually done by like big, huge companies or the actual car company themselves, right? So friend and customer was like, hey, you guys should do one of these. I've seen some like, some Honda guys, like do stuff. And we were like, there's no way we could sell enough product to be able to pay for not just the product and then restocking product, because obviously every time we sell a product, we're restocking, and it's usually more than one because a lot of our parts are from Japan or manufactured by other small companies, so we have to order them in quantity. I was like, I just don't see how we can do it. And over time, we had enough parts on there and we had enough order volume that we were like, this could work and be great, or it could catastrophically fail. And frankly, we're used to that because, we had many failures like anybody who's built anything. And, we try to learn from them and then get better and improve and don't make that mistake again. But it was very much the mentality of fail forward fast. Like, let's just do it. And worst case scenario, we give an awesome car to one of our customers, and we lose, the first car was probably a $10,000 build. And then I ran, probably like a few $1,000s of ads for maybe like for 3 weeks or something like that was the first one. But it was all car parts, and our margins are very low on those car parts. So I think we broke even on that first one, but I remember being really legitimately nervous. And I don't really get nervous or scared about stuff. Like we just do it and then see what happens. But yeah, I actually remember tangibly feeling nervous.
Got it. So do you think that someone could start off this way by, if they have, the kind of inventory that is required? Because I think you raised a good point, which is that if you are to set this up so that each purchase, each dollar that they spend is considered an entry, you have to have things in your inventory that are just kind of like things that people might want, not that they need, right? Because if they don't need car parts, they're not going to buy car parts, just enter. But yeah, merch eventually, which are things people might just want to buy and they don't necessarily need it. So if they have the inventory like that set up, can they start off this way, or are there certain things that you feel you had in place, whether it be with the brand or anything else you can think of that is required to be able to successfully build a business this way?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that was one of the things that we were asking ourselves before that first one. And ultimately, the only way we were able to do it and not just lose all of the money is that we had an existing customer base of about maybe 1,500 customers around the country. And they were, a lot of our customers are very loyal. We try to, make it that way by, giving them phenomenal service and great parts and good value. But we could not have done it at that time. And with my knowledge and with the back end capabilities of the website, we could not have done it and been profitable on cold traffic. We ran no cold traffic for the first bunch of MR2 giveaways. It was just all website retargeting. That was it.
Why does it work now then? Why does cold traffic work today?
Well, because we're able to build off the back of our retargeting and existing returning customers who are still always buying MR2 parts. So every time we go to grow, even though we know they may not, and this was a major consideration with the Evo, because I'd never even driven a Mitsubishi Evolution before this. Now I'm like, wow, this is an awesome car. But MR2 guys are MR2 guys. So we knew most of them weren't going to just buy anything to get entered, but we knew that they still had to buy, some of them had to buy some parts at some time. Like these are 30-year-old cars. They need stuff constantly. So it's calculated risk, obviously. And, we didn't want our customers to feel like we were abandoning them or, outgrowing them or something like that. So we make it a point to, still be fanatical about our support. But at the end of the day, we couldn't grow anymore off the back of the MR2 giveaways, and the MR2 has some bad reputation aspects to the uneducated car person or non-car person, in terms of it's a mid-engine turbo car, it's rear-wheel drive, it's very easy to swap ends, especially in stock form. Once we modify them, they're substantially better, but still, like, it's a handful car. It can bite you, so we used to get a lot of negative feedback on that from cold traffic. But yeah, cold traffic now is, like I said, very fundamentally basic targeting, just the interest targeting. And then we do, we work with a couple big YouTube channels, that have obviously the trust and the attention of their subscribers. And, wouldn't it be cool? You're just watching a YouTube channel and, this car giveaway comes up, you go and enter and you end up winning, a car. So yeah, it's always our MR2 customers. They'll always be there, and we're always trying to do more and better stuff for them. But ultimately now, everything above just basically website retargeting, is cold traffic to new audiences.
Got it. So just make sure I understand this. So when you first started off, you were able to successfully do this giveaway and be profitable because you were announcing the giveaway to your existing customer base. Is that right?
100% correct. Yes. The thing that was so outstanding and so remarkable about that first one is that it did extremely well, and actually better than the following three, because no one thought we would do it again. Like, no one had ever seen that. No one had ever done that in our industry, not in these little tiny companies, because of, a huge amount of capital outlay, energy, and work. And then having to have the back end that could even do it, which it really couldn't back then, but we made it work. But it was overwhelmingly positive, but then we were like, okay, this is a lot more work than we thought it was going to be. And it's not that easy to pay for a car on the back of low margin part sales.
Got it. So then when you kind of grew past this phase of just launching to your existing customers and you were running cold traffic, you mentioned retargeting. So these are people that are just coming, that are familiar at least a little bit with the brand, but maybe they haven't purchased before. Like, how cold or how warm is this traffic that you're getting from Facebook ads?
Yeah. So my website retargeting traffic is going to be 180-day website retargeting audience, generated by Facebook dynamically. That's going to be effectively always my core customers. And then obviously a bunch of random people, who get there because of the giveaway or because someone told them to go there, or they found us on Google or YouTube or what have you. We put a lot of work in trying to be kind of omnipresent, like on all platforms, all times, but obviously it's only possible to a certain extent. But that's the website retargeting stuff. And then obviously emails, Facebook Messenger, some of the MR2 groups on Facebook, that's where a lot of our customers live. But the cold traffic is cold. The definition of cold traffic. These people have never heard of us. They have never been to our website. It's just straight single video conversion, shop now, call to action, a little bit about the giveaway, an attention grabber headline, and that's it. And a cool video, of the car. Like, we make this like big hero video, like a 60-second hero video of the car to basically show sights and sounds and, create some emotion and some excitement.
Got it. So why couldn't someone do the same that you did and just focus specifically on cold traffic then in that scenario? Because it worked for you, right? It not only, obviously the existing customers, the retargeted customers, they are also helping to fund the giveaway. But it sounds like the more scalable approach for you, and maybe even more desired result for you, is to get the cold traffic, people that have never heard of you before, coming, buying products, entering the giveaway. Couldn't someone do this? Because if they start with like no customer base, like, well, what do you see might still be missing?
The challenge with it is the cost, the barrier to entry. Obviously, like, the barrier to entry to e-commerce nowadays, especially with the Shopify, the amazing platform that you guys have, and all the amazing apps that are on it. The barrier to entry to start an e-commerce store is nothing now, right? It's $0. And really, like, zero inventory, if you are doing drop shipping or something like that, right? The reality of doing a car is that takes actual capital, infrastructure. Like, if you have a website that can function like Shopify website, has all these apps that allow you to kind of do all these things all at the same time, you'll be able to track entries. You're going to have, even at a cheap car, like, there are a couple guys, a couple pop-up companies that are trying to capitalize on this. And, I mean, I'm a small business owner. I'm a capitalist. This is the free market. They can, there's plenty of business out there. It's not like there's an abundance of business out there. It's not like it's a scarcity kind of issue. But the capital outlay and the manpower outlay to produce inventory, stock inventory, ship inventory, create all of the different ads that I run on all the platforms, run and manage inventory and everything on the back end that my business partner does, design stuff like our designer does, and then answer questions, respond to stuff on social media, respond to emails. It's a lot of money and manpower. And obviously manpower costs money as well. To me, there are two companies that are kind of trying to do it right now. And they have a long road ahead. Like if they're in it for the long game and they're willing to just hemorrhage money for a year or two, then, well executed, they could probably do it. But there's nothing unique or interesting about them. So the challenge there is they don't have any differentiation. There's one big company that started doing this in a big way on Facebook 4 years ago, and they're the McDonald's of this. They're first mover. They have all the advantages, huge followings they built up on social media early on. And they give away phenomenally amazing cars and a bunch of money. They're the McDonald's.
Got it.
These other guys are kind of coming in, but they're only merch. Like all they sell is shirts and hats and, a couple detailing products, I guess. But we sell like tools, like battery tenders and so they don't just have to buy like a shirt or a hat if they don't want to. These are basically trying to do the same thing, but with less interesting cars, less money, and less variety of merch, less different designs. Obviously this company, the big company, has been around for 4 years. Like at this point, they have a pretty substantial catalog of old designs stuff. So could you do it? Yeah. I mean, as somebody who's really good at this, and knows cars, because ultimately you do still have to know what car to do and what the market wants. Like our market and the guys that are trying to do it now, is, Japanese cars, called JDM cars, Japanese domestic market. These are mostly 90s and early 2000s tuner cars, like the Fast and the Furious kind of stuff. That's my generation. That's when I grew up. Fast and Furious was a game changer movie for our entire industry. Like I'm sitting here if Fast and Furious didn't come out. And so, these other guys are, kind of trying to do something similar. We'll see how it works. Ultimately, I wish them all the best. I don't view any of it as competition. I just view it as, the free market.
Right. Yeah. I guess the main point here is that I'm trying to get at is that if you're not trying to give away a car, you're in a different industry. This is potentially a scalable way to start, right? To build a customer base, to get people to come and become customers for the first time. I think, like you mentioned, the barriers to entry for giving away a product $10,000-$20,000 might be out of reach for a lot of people because, again, you're saying it's going to cost you a lot upfront to lay out that cash to support a giveaway like this. But if you are giving away a much smaller product, you're in a different industry, this might be an approach setting cold traffic to a giveaway. They enter by buying products. Do people ever get confused on how to enter? They click on the link. Like, where does it take them? They take them to like a giveaway explanation page or something. How do they learn more about what they need to do to enter?
Yeah, good question. And in the beginning, there was a lot of confusion. Pre Shopify, there was a lot of confusion because it used to be every $5 for one entry. Then people had to do math, and it got complicated. But yeah, ultimately, yes. To your first point, if you are not giving away something as massive and time consuming as a car, where we have to buy it, build it, and then film it, and then do all that. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this exists, but I kind of wanted to try some of it myself to cold traffic, just because I have the skill set where I could do that, and obviously we have your guys' platform that can do all the back end. But giving away, a set of coilovers, suspension. We were originally going to start like that. Let's give away a suspension first because that's not a big risk. And then we were like, that's just not going to be interesting enough in the world that we're in, where we build cars, people have cars, it's just exciting that to give away a car. But I mean, if you were going to give away any number of cool and interesting things that had a relatively broad market, but with us, it's because we're so specialized that it was interesting in the beginning, and now we're working on broadening appeal in that market. After building on the back of our specialty, our niche, our very, very small niche. But yeah, I think it's a great way to build a new brand. Frankly, I think like most business owners, once they find something that's working, I wish that I had done it 2 years earlier when our friend and customer recommended it. But frankly, the website didn't even exist in the capacity that it could have even done that back then. So that was why we kind of didn't do it.
Yeah, how do you explain this? How do you explain this to someone that they land on this?
Yeah. So as far as confusion, to your point about, like not being sure what to do, they land, all of our traffic gets driven to just our homepage. And our homepage is basically set up as a scrolling, it scrolls all the merch categories. It's got, video of the previous winner. And then the hero picture when you land is the car we're giving away. Tells you what the car is, tells you how much the cash is on top of it. Because obviously you have taxes when you win the car. You got to ship it back to your house, blah, blah, blah. And then every page will say, every dollar spent is one entry. And then every product page, individual product page you click on, will then say, this product is worth, this item earns you X number of entries. So that's basically how we communicate it. And then we communicate it in the ads. Still people ask, but we changed it to $1, which was new for this last giveaway. It simplified a lot. The $5 one entry thing was very confusing for a lot of people, but also we've done 9 now. So like there's a little bit more awareness, even with cold traffic, where we're not the only ones doing this. There are much bigger companies that do these things. So people are a little bit more aware in general of how it works within our kind of tiny niche audience.
Got it. So yeah, I'll see on your homepage, the very top thing above the fold is explaining the giveaway, right? So I think that it's very clear that all the traffic you drive, especially to the homepage, is around getting someone to enter the giveaway. So I love that approach. So thank you so much for your time, Justin. Anyone that wants to check it out, go to primedriven.com to see what they got going on. For you, what are you most excited for to come true this year? Like what is the one thing that you can't wait to happen for this year?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I write down and recite my goals every day, and the one that's actually not on there, but that is a big goal of ours as a company, and myself personally, is I am on the board of a charity that works with wounded veterans and law enforcement officers, and my best friend actually founded it, and a lot of the money that I make just on my, just from my paychecks, which aren't big, I'm not a anything heir in terms of money. I'm just a guy. But the ability to fund more of our projects. We do a lot of community outreach stuff, a lot of peer mentoring, helping veterans, get back into fitness, to help them, kind of heal mentally, stuff like that, specialty training for law enforcement, and then even working with kids in, some of the more urban areas. That is basically my passion. In terms of my not pure business life. So my business life is driven by that passion and by that amazing feeling of fulfillment and contribution of being able to help people who can't help themselves at that time. That's really a big thing for me personally. As a business, my goal is to double revenue every year. Obviously, that's not sustainable at a certain period of time, I guess. But so that's the goal for this year as well, just like it was last year. And we're going to give away our next car coming up. Giveaway number 10 is going to be really, really cool. And then we're going to try to ratchet up even another notch for the one after that. So we're very excited about that. We're hoping our customers will be very excited as well, because I know if I was one of my customers, I would be. Because I don't even own any of these cars personally. They're just for the giveaway, and then somebody else gets them.
You gotta start buying stuff, man.
Yeah. So it's very cool. It's very exciting. The feedback being overwhelmingly positive with very little negative is just makes for a totally different business experience that I really would have never expected out of this scenario.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for your time, Justin. primedriven.com again is a website. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience.
Thank you very much, Felix. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Shopify Masters, the e-commerce podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs powered by Shopify. To get your exclusive 30-day extended trial, visit shopify.com shopify.com/masters.